SITREP World Briefing for May 17, 2026. Ukraine launched a large overnight drone attack on Russia, with strikes reaching the Moscow region and killing 3 people there, Russian authorities said on May 17. Officials in the region also reported injuries, while Russian air defenses were activated around the capital as the barrage unfolded. President Volodymyr Zelensky said the operation was justified, and France 24 reported that he said Ukraine had launched around 600 drones at Russia. The strike on the Moscow region marked one of the most visible attempts in recent months to project the war into territory that Russia presents as secure, while fighting continues across Ukraine. Moscow is not only Russia's seat of government, but also a critical transport and command hub, so attacks near the capital can force the diversion of air defense assets. The reported deaths and injuries gave the attack immediate political resonance inside Russia, while Zelensky's public defense of the operation signaled that Kyiv sees long-range drone warfare as a legitimate part of its campaign against Russian military capacity and state infrastructure. Israel carried out a broad wave of airstrikes across southern Lebanon on Saturday, May 16th, one day after the United States announced an extension of the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. Lebanese authorities said 6 people were killed, while the Israeli military said it was targeting Hezbollah positions in the south. The timing of the strikes was politically significant because they came immediately after the U.S.-backed extension was made public. Southern Lebanon has been one of the main arenas of confrontation between Israel and Hezbollah since the Gaza war broadened into a wider regional conflict, and repeated exchanges of fire have continued despite efforts to restore a durable ceasefire. The ceasefire extension matters because it is meant to create space for diplomacy between Israel, Lebanon, and international mediators, while also reducing the danger of a wider regional war. For residents of southern Lebanese towns, the immediate consequence was another day of bombardment and fatalities, while for Washington, the strikes were an early test of whether its renewed push for de-escalation can translate into restraint on the ground. U.S. President Donald Trump met Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing in a summit centered on trade, technological rivalry, and Taiwan, bringing the leaders of the world's 2 largest economies together at a moment of sharper strategic competition. The meeting returned Trump to Beijing for the first time in nearly a decade. For both governments, talks in Beijing carried significance well beyond bilateral commerce because each issue now touches military planning, supply chains, and political legitimacy in Asia. After the Beijing summit, Trump warned against a formal declaration of independence by Taiwan, prompting Taipei to respond by insisting that it is already independent. Beijing claims Taiwan as part of China and has long reserved the option of using force, while Taiwan's leaders argue that the island governs itself and does not need to declare a status it already exercises in practice. Because Washington remains Taiwan's most important international security partner, any statement by a U.S. president on independence, deterrence, or cross-strait negotiations is scrutinized closely in Beijing, Taipei, and across the region. The summit's agenda also reflected how trade and technology have become inseparable from security policy. Restrictions on high-end chips, export controls, industrial subsidies, and the contest for leadership in strategic technologies now shape the relationship as much as tariffs or traditional diplomatic messaging. Taiwan sits at the center of that overlap, both because of its political status and because it is crucial to the global semiconductor industry. By addressing trade, technology, and Taiwan in the same meeting, Trump and Xi signaled that future U.S.-China negotiations are likely to remain comprehensive and difficult, with economic bargaining, military signaling, and questions about sovereignty continuing to collide. The World Health Organization on Sunday declared the Ebola outbreak affecting the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Uganda a public health emergency of international concern, its highest formal alert level for cross-border disease threats. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus announced the decision as the outbreak reached roughly 246 confirmed or suspected cases and more than 80 deaths. The declaration elevates the response in Central and East Africa, where porous borders, regional trade routes, and population movement can accelerate transmission if surveillance and treatment systems falter. The emergency declaration came after health authorities warned that the outbreak involves a strain for which no vaccine is currently available, complicating containment efforts in eastern Congo and neighboring Uganda. Reports cited more than 300 suspected cases across the two countries. In practical terms, the WHO move is designed to mobilize funding, intensify international coordination, and strengthen screening, laboratory capacity, contact tracing, and protective measures for frontline medical workers in areas where previous Ebola outbreaks have already strained health systems. The decision carries weight beyond the immediate case counts because Ebola outbreaks in the Democratic Republic of the Congo have repeatedly tested regional preparedness, and neighboring states such as Uganda sit on major transport corridors linking East and Central Africa. A PEI declaration does not automatically trigger border closures, but it signals to governments, donors, and aid agencies that they should be ready to finance emergency operations and share expertise quickly. Sources are available at sitrep.com.